Vikings, when toxic masculinity had really good marketing. Imagine if every gym bro, UFC fighter and energy drink commercial got their inspiration from the same historical marketing campaign. Congratulations, you've just discovered how Vikings became the ancient world's most successful toxic masculinity brand, complete with merchandise that's still selling 1,000 years later. What's up, history lovers? Today we're diving into how berserkers, Viking hygiene and Norse culture got completely hijacked by Hollywood's imagination. Spoiler alert. Real Vikings were cleaner than most medieval Europeans, and berserkers were probably just having really bad drug trips. The truth is way weirder than the movies, and somehow even more masculine in the most unexpected ways. Berserkers, the original rage quitters. Let's start with berserkers, because Hollywood has convinced everyone these guys were basically medieval Incredible Hulks who fought half naked and invincible. The reality? They were probably just really high. Modern historians think berserkers achieved their legendary battle frenzy through a combination of mushroom consumption, ritual preparation, and what we'd now recognize as dissociative episodes. Basically, they were Viking warriors having controlled psychotic breaks as a military strategy. The Norse sagas describe berserkers as men who fought without mail coats, were mad as dogs or wolves, bit their shields, and were as strong as bears or bulls. This sounds terrifying until you realize they're describing people having drug-induced episodes while wearing bear skins instead of armor. Hollywood shows berserkers as unstoppable killing machines. Reality shows berserkers as elite warriors who used psychological warfare, performance-enhancing substances, and religious rituals to gain tactical advantages. Less supernatural, more strategic. The scariest part about berserkers wasn't their supernatural powers. It was their calculated use of terror as a weapon. Viking hygiene, cleaner than your medieval neighbors. Now let's talk about the biggest lie Hollywood ever told about Vikings, that they were dirty, unwashed barbarians. Vikings were probably the cleanest people in medieval Europe. Vikings had tweezers, ear spoons, nail cleaners and razors. They bathed weekly, which was revolutionary for medieval times when most Europeans considered bathing suspicious and possibly sinful. Saturday was literally called washing day in Old Norse. They bleached their beards blonde, braided their hair elaborately, and some even wore makeup. Viking men spent more time on their appearance than most modern influencers. We're talking about warriors who would raid monasteries and then spend an hour doing their eyeliner. English chroniclers actually complained that Vikings were too attractive and kept stealing their women through superior hygiene and grooming habits. Imagine being so clean that it becomes a military advantage. The reality is, Vikings were medieval fashion influencers who happened to be really good at violence. They were the ancient world's answer to how to look good while conquering stuff. The real Viking toxic masculinity problem. But here's where things get complicated. While Hollywood exaggerated Viking brutality, Norse culture did have some genuinely problematic ideas about masculinity that would make modern therapists very concerned. Viking society was built around concepts of honor that were absolutely toxic by modern standards. Being called unmanly was literally worse than death. Men were expected to seek revenge for any slight, no matter how minor, or lose all social standing. They had a concept called enid, a form of shame so severe it could legally justify killing someone. Imagine if calling someone's masculinity into question on Twitter was grounds for actual murder, and you're getting close to Viking honor culture. The sagas are full of men starting decades-long blood feuds because someone questioned their courage or implied they were effeminate. It's like if every internet argument escalated to actual warfare, except these guys had axes and lived before anger management therapy was invented. But here's the twist. This hyper-masculine culture also produced some of the most gender-fluid religious practices in medieval Europe. Viking sorcerers regularly cross-dressed as part of their magic rituals, and this was considered totally normal. So they simultaneously had the most rigid masculinity standards and the most flexible gender expressions. Vikings were complicated in ways that would break modern social media algorithms. Hollywood's Viking makeover. So how did historically clean, well-groomed, complex Nordic people become Hollywood's go-to savage barbarians? The answer is 19th century nationalism and really effective marketing. The savage Viking image was largely created by Romantic period artists who needed a symbol of primitive Germanic strength. Real Vikings were international traders, sophisticated craftsmen, and surprisingly democratic. But that doesn't sell movie tickets. Hollywood took the most sensational parts of Viking culture, the raiding, the berserkers, the violence, and ignored everything else. It's like if future historians judged American culture entirely based on action movies and UFC fights. Real Viking society had laws, courts, poetry competitions, and complex trade networks. Most Vikings were farmers and craftsmen who never raided anything more exciting than their neighbor's turnip field. But the Hollywood version was so compelling that it became the real Vikings in popular culture. Marvel's Thor, TV shows like Vikings, video games, they all draw from this romanticized image rather than historical reality. The irony is that Hollywood's toxic masculinity Viking has become one of history's most successful rebranding campaigns. These guys have been dead for 1,000 years, and they're still selling everything from energy drinks to gym memberships. The lasting legacy of Viking marketing. So what's the real legacy of Viking culture versus Viking marketing? It's complicated, and it tells us more about us than about them. Real Vikings gave us democratic assemblies, advanced navigation technology, rich storytelling traditions, and surprisingly progressive attitudes toward women's rights. Viking women could own property, request divorces, and run businesses, revolutionary for medieval times. But modern Viking culture is mostly about selling an image of aggressive masculinity that actual Vikings would probably find both hilarious and confusing. They'd be like, you know, we also made jewelry and wrote poetry, right? The real tragedy is that authentic Viking culture, with its emphasis on storytelling, craftsmanship, exploration, and social innovation, is way more interesting than the Hollywood version. Modern Scandinavian countries consistently rank highest in happiness, gender equality, and social progress. That's the real Viking legacy, not the toxic masculinity marketing campaign. The actual Viking values of exploration, innovation, democratic decision-making, and gender equality created some of the most successful societies in human history. The Hollywood values of hyper-masculine violence created, well, mostly just entertainment revenue. So there you have it. Vikings, the ancient world's most successful marketing campaign, where toxic masculinity branding overshadowed a complex culture of clean, democratic poetry-writing raiders. Maybe the real treasure was the hygiene habits they maintained along the way. The next time someone tries to channel Viking energy, remind them that authentic Viking energy involves weekly baths, elaborate braids, and respecting women's property rights. If you enjoyed learning about history's most misrepresented warriors, smash that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and remember, real Vikings would definitely use conditioner and axe the like button.